Do you think if Harden doesn't hurt his hamstring in the playoffs last year, that this trade even happens? Or do you think it was just all of these little events that now lead to this crazy event?
I mean, it's both of those things, really. I mean, maybe they win it all last year if these injuries don't happen. That like with this Nets team, like it really is a shame we won't get to see them again at peak strength. I mean, because it was absolutely unbelievable to watch last season. And it's all fallen apart because of all those little things that kept adding up, like you said, Bill. But with this Nets team, though, I mean, ultimately, like in some ways, it's kind of a like they maintain throughout. Everybody you talk to around the Nets, they maintain that they believe that with KD, Harden, and Kyrie, that they were the best team in basketball with those guys healthy. They truly believe that. I think even after doing the deal, the question now is like with getting Simmons and Curry, does this actually make them better though? Does it actually make them better because of what Ben Simmons could provide there? Because of Seth Curry he can add more of that movement and shooting like we talked about that Philly's losing. Now Brooklyn gets that movement and that shooting, and they can play with that around Ben Simmons, who can do everything Blake Griffin does with dribble handoff actions, short roll, switching on defense. Like I feel like the Nets come out of this, we're not going to get to see that version of them again, but they come out better on paper, at least with what they could be.
It seems like potentially a more reliable team, except for the part that one of the guys involved is somebody who decided not to play basketball for the last 9 months.
Yeah. On paper.
On paper.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, I actually do think Brooklyn might be more fun to watch. So Mahoney, let's talk this through.
Yeah.
You have Simmons in the 25-year-old version of how good Blake Griffin looked for a month and a half last year in that spot. Like the undersized 5, pushing the ball in transition. You might be able to run some low post stuff where he passes out of low post and whatever else, rebounding, and he's going to be able to guard the other team's best defender. Curry, who I think has turned into a kind of a gem of an offensive player. I really
nice
enjoy
player.
watching him. Like he can create shots, he can play off other people. He just seems like he'd be fun to play with. That's been the case for a couple of years. So you have those two. You have Durant. You have Kyrie. Doesn't look like we have Joe Harris. Who's my 5th for crunch time, and what does that lineup look like?
It's Patty, right?
Yeah, maybe small with Patty.
That's really smart. I mean, Kyrie,
here's the
Curry,
thing,
and Patty Mills.
I really love Seth Curry, but I do have memories of Seth Curry being like a pretty big defensive liability in the playoffs. You know, like it's really sweet. Like he's a nice dude, and he's an awesome offensive player. And I know that Embiid loves the guy who can curl around him and run all these figure eights and like work off the ball and then nail it open 3. But Seth Curry in May is not the same thing as Seth Curry in February. You know,
but what it allows you is you have with Curry and with Kyrie, at every point of the game, you have somebody who can be a little bit of a creator as a guard, right? So I don't know how Curry and Kyrie
and then you
can
can let
together.
Simmons can guard Trae Young, or Simmons can guard Middleton or Holiday or whatever. Like Simmons can take the toughest perimeter defensive assignment that you've got.
So Rob, who's the crunch time guy? Who's that 5th guy? Is it somebody that's not on the team yet? Is it Aldridge? Could it be Aldridge, Durant, Kyrie, Mills, Simmons? And then Curry's not in crunch time. So basically Curry's your Kyrie protection, I guess.
I still feel like you want another big out there, and some of that is Simmons. Simmons is a great theoretical 5.
Yeah.
When he's been actually asked to play 5 or guard 5s or rebound like a 5, it doesn't always go so well. It doesn't always work exactly the way you would want it to the point where I think I would want a little bit more size alongside him, a little bit more support there, wherever that ends up coming from, whether it's Aldridge or Claxton or maybe someone to be named later. But the combination of what he gives you defensively, guarding perimeter guys, being able to switch, and then offensively, I don't know that you can find a better fit in terms of like a full court menace and a half court shot maker than Simmons with Kyrie or Simmons with Durant. Like those guys just, their games synergize so smoothly in a way that all the questions about, Harden having the ball, how are we going to balance this stuff or that? It just goes away. Like it becomes super clean when everyone is out there in a way that I think could be really, really challenging for other teams to keep up with.
that's why I think with the end game, like finishing lineups here, it depends. I mean, sometimes in certain lineups, it might be a small ball team with Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons at the 4 and the 5, but other times it might be Aldridge, it might be Claxton, it might be Curry. Like, it's going to vary on a night to night basis, which kind of speaks to, there's these reports about Harden likes to have a fixed in game lineup. The Nets want to be flexible and have different teams out there. Steve Nash is going to have a lot of fun with the lineup combinations. It could even be like Kessler Edwards, who's been a pretty good 3-and-D guy for them. Like, it could vary on a night-to-night basis with what they throw out there to end the game.
I think Steve Nash is the big winner of this trade, right? Because he was in this untenable situation with, you just don't want unhappy, overweight James Harden at any point if you're a coach. And then you have Kyrie, who's top 5 guys you wouldn't want probably the last 5 years. And then Durant coming off a seems like a pretty significant injury, considering he said that he's going to be out another 3 to 4 weeks on top of all the time he's missed already. Now, at least Nash can coach a little bit more. Chris, the thought of KD and Simmons as these two kind of, I don't want to say unicorny, but close with all the stuff they can bring to a lineup. I guess KD is a unicorn. Simmons, I don't know. But like these two guys that you have out there, I actually like the thought of them together. I've been thinking about that a lot, assuming Simmons' head is right, and who knows?
I mean, it's intoxicating. I wasn't necessarily like, I was never somebody who was like sweeping Ben out the door. I also had like kind of a feeling like, well, if this doesn't happen, maybe he comes back to the team, water under the bridge, got to rebuild his value. Let's make a second half of the season push with Simmons in the lineup. Maybe he gets a little bit of redemption in the playoffs. And then maybe if it comes to that, you move on in the offseason when everything is sort of settled and Beal and Lillard are out there and you can kind of make a decision about what the best move is. But I'll tell you something, like the first time this dude like swishes an above the break 3-pointer on the Nets, there's going to be a lot of water main breaks in Philadelphia. Like, I do wonder how much of what's going on with Ben outside of the mental stuff that he's that people have talked about him going through is just a circumstantial environmental thing where it's like, you know, he's been playing with Joel his entire career. They've had a lot of turnover on that team. There was the sort of Feds version of the team. There was the Jimmy Butler version of the team. There's been this iteration that's like Joel, Tobias, and Ben as the big three there.
I love what you're doing here. This is great. Keep going.
What am I talking myself into? Ben Simmons just needed a change of scenery?
This is the Ben Simmons enabler playbook that Clutch sent Chris like a week ago.
Bill, I forgot to mention who will be negotiating my next deal with you, by the way. Should Rich just text you? Or
yeah.
Like, do you guys want to meet for coffee? I think you'll find my demands incredibly reasonable.
This is the best thing possible for Ben Simmons, though, which is, it's just so funny that it worked out for him when he handled it just horribly, really, since last June. That's usually not the case. Where you have
right now,
Ben Simmons wins and Harden wins, who's quit on 2 teams in a year.
15 minutes after this happened, this is like a weird win-win. You know, Daryl Morey got a better player than the one he had for the trade he had. The Nets obviously got to the point where one of their 3-star players did not want to play there anymore. And instead they get back basically everything they need. Somebody under contractual control, someone who plays defense every night, someone who's unselfish. And you think maybe in this new context with Steve Nash and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and whoever else, that some of the things in his game that have been Achilles heels turn into like, well, okay, this is passable now. We just need you to do this. We just need you to do that. James Harden's not going to have any problems playing the Doc Rivers offense. There's not a lot of movement in it already. You know, like there's basically the Rip Hamilton role that runs around Joel and everybody else kind of stands around. So, I mean, I think that James will probably have like a pretty smooth, seamless transition into the Sixers system.
Well, we're going to find out once and for all if Ben Simmons likes playing basketball. And I know that's a harsh thing to say, but I stand by it. Because we saw in LSU, he barely wanted to finish that season. We've seen some pretty bizarre behavior with the Sixers. And we've seen somebody who is willing to throw away a year of his career as he was entering his prime when he was still trying to get better as a basketball player and set $20 million on fire that he's not getting back. And now he's in a really good situation, right? He gets to play with Durant, who I think we all think if he's healthy, the road still goes through him. He is still, it's either him or Giannis. It's 1A, 1B, and we could argue about that till the cows come home. He's got Steve Nash, beloved guy by all accounts, one of the most beloved teammates of the last 20 years, and somebody who I think has kept a pretty even keel during one of the most bizarre 14-month runs a coach has had. And he's got some offensive firepower where it's not going to matter if he takes 3 shots in 7 game 7s in that series, right? Casey, what am I missing? What else is perfect about this for him?
I mean, I think with Simmons here, like, what if Kyrie becomes full-time as well? I mean, we'll see if the New York City
we think might happen
mandate.
Soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it could, I mean, surrounding states are doing that. Connecticut did it, so maybe New York at some point will.
They're lifting the indoor mask mandate, but I don't know that they're changing the vaccine mandate.
Not yet for New York. Okay,
yeah.
I mean, but maybe
and the mayor of New York
April.
has kind of suggested that he's not looking to change that.
He suggested a lot of things.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. He has. He said he'll follow the science. So we'll see how that
at
develops.
1 a.m. at Rouse, Eric Adams was like, "Let me tell you something.
Follow the science should work out great."
Yeah.
Sorry, Casey. Keep going.
We'll see how things develop in New York. But I mean, for Ben Simmons here, like, you're right, Bill, that with Simmons, we are going to find out if he loves basketball, but I think we're also going to find out like how adaptable he really is too. Because like now he's going to be in a situation where if Kyrie's on the floor, Ben Simmons is in the half court is going to have to be that screener, the handoff guy. When Kyrie's not playing, he'll be more of like a guy, the idealized role that Clutch has wanted for him for so long, the guy who's running the offense and has Kevin Durant flanking him and Seth Curry by his side and a bunch of shooters. So, I mean, like, he's going to have to be adaptable and fit into different roles more than ever before. And with Simmons, I'm excited to see that from him. I really think, like, for so long, I've bashed Simmons, like, doesn't shoot, like the stuff at LSU you mentioned. But now he's finally in a situation where I don't feel like fit is even a concern on my mind. It's just about him actually doing it. So we're about to really find out a lot about Ben Simmons.
Yeah, the thing is, I still enjoy watching him play basketball. I think what happened in the playoffs was absolutely brutal.
You can tell how interesting he is by the fact that we're spending so much time talking about a guy who hasn't played basketball this season.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw him play basketball was like one of the weirder, more awkward moments in an NBA game that any of us are going to remember is him dumping it off to Thibault. But like he is an amazing player to watch. Like that's why we're like, oh shit. Well, what if this works? And it's like, we haven't even talked about really like what this means for Embiid or whether the Sixers are contenders in the Eastern Conference. It's immediately, it's like, do these dudes just now have a 6'10" passing wizard who loves to D up the opposing team's best offensive player?